Behind your ear lives a door. Not one made of wood or stone, but a threshold woven from nerve and consciousness, hidden in a place so tender, so intimate, that most people pass through their entire lives without ever noticing it exists. What if I told you that the human body harbors invisible switches, gateways to other states of consciousness? And what if one of these switches was waiting just there, behind your ear, activated by nothing more than the softness of 2 fingers? This is not common knowledge. It is a practice that has remained veiled, whispered through discreet lineages, held by healers, monks, and sages, who understood something modern science is only now beginning to touch. The body is not merely biology. It is an energetic map that responds to sacred touch. Today, I reveal to you one of these ancient keys, the stimulation of the mastoid zone, that delicate point behind your ear, caressed in antiquity, as though you were soothing the ear of a sleeping child. This gesture, though subtle, activates a profoundly restorative circuit, the circuit of deep rest, the portal that opens toward inner silence, toward that sacred space where the soul repels and the body regenerates itself. Perhaps you have felt this before, without knowing what you were experiencing. In the arms of someone you love, touched gently behind the ear, almost by accident. And suddenly, an inexplicable peace enveloped you. It was not mere tenderness, it was ancestral memory, a response encoded in your nervous system, because that point is a key, and what it opens is not simply sleep, it is the sacred rest of the soul. In this journey, we will descend deeply into this forgotten practice. We will discover its spiritual roots, its connection to the parasympathetic nervous system, and its sacred importance in the art of energetic care. We will explore how this gesture, when performed with true intention, becomes a ritual of reunion with yourself, an act of corporeal compassion that heals not only from the outside, but from the invisible core of your being. And we will learn that the most powerful transformations often hide in the most delicate places, waiting for us to touch them with reverence. Because in a world that has forgotten the language of gentleness, this small point behind your ear speaks louder than any scream. It whispers, "You are safe, you can rest, you are held." The zone behind your ear is not arbitrary. It is a junction, a meeting point where the physical body converges with the subtle architecture of consciousness. And at this junction, one of the most important systems of your entire being waits to be remembered: the parasympathetic nervous system, often called the rest and restore network. For most of your waking life, your nervous system operates in a state of vigilance. You are scanning for threats, anticipating problems, bracing against the unknown. This is the sympathetic nervous system, the fighter, the survivor, the warrior within you. It serves a purpose. But when it never rests, when it becomes your default state, the body forgets what it means to truly relax. This is where the mastoid point becomes revolutionary. When you touch this zone with slow, intentional pressure, using 2 fingers in a gentle petal-like gesture, you send a direct signal to your vagus nerve, the great communicator that runs from your brain all the way down to your heart, lungs, and digestive system. The vagus nerve is the primary activator of parasympathetic response, and one of its most accessible branches runs precisely behind your ear. What happens in those moments of soft touch is profound. Your heart rate begins to slow. Your breathing deepens naturally. Your blood pressure lowers. Your digestive system reawakens, because true rest only occurs when you are no longer in survival mode. Cortisol, the stress hormone that has been flooding your system all day, begins to recede. In its place, serotonin and oxytocin rise, creating feelings of peace, connection, and inner safety. But this is not merely biochemistry. This is the body remembering its original state, a state of trust. When you were born, when you were held by your mother or by safe hands, this same gentle touch behind your ear created a neurological imprint of safety. It told your developing nervous system, the world is kind, you are protected, you can surrender. That imprint lives within you still, dormant but intact. By stimulating this point with conscious intention, you are not introducing something foreign. You are reactivating something ancient, something that was always yours. You are reminding your nervous system of what it already knows, that it is safe to rest, that it is safe to let go, that the universe itself is conspiring for your healing. To understand the power of this practice, we must first understand that touch is not a simple physical act. It is a language, perhaps the oldest language humanity has ever spoken. Long before words existed, touch was how we communicated safety, love, presence, and healing. And this language is written into the very fabric of your nervous system. When you touch the mastoid zone behind your ear with 2 fingers, index and middle, arranged as though forming a delicate petal, you are recreating an ancient gesture. This is not the touch of medical precision or clinical technique. This is the touch a mother instinctively uses to calm her child without words. This is the touch that says, without needing sound, everything is well. You are safe. I am with you. The ancient traditions understood this profoundly. In Taoist and Tibetan practices, this point was called the petal of awakening, or the ear of the soul. In Sanskrit texts, it was referenced as a gateway to pratyahara, the conscious withdrawal of the senses from external distraction into the sanctuary of inner being. The mechanism was always the same: gentle, rhythmic, intentional touch, applied with reverence rather than force. Why 2 fingers? Why this specific gesture? Because the human nervous system responds not to intensity, but to quality. When you apply pressure with all your strength, you activate the sympathetic response. Tension begets tension. But when you touch with softness, with patience, with the kind of presence you would offer to something sacred, you activate something deeper. You activate trust. The body recognizes that it is not being seized, not being attacked, but being honored. There is a reason why this point is behind your ear, near the seat of hearing. In many spiritual traditions, the ear is considered the most spiritual of all the senses. Unlike the eyes, which demand action and engagement, the ear is receptive. It listens, it receives, it opens. When you touch this area, you are not commanding your body into relaxation. You are inviting your consciousness to listen, to hear the whispers of your own inner wisdom, the voice of your soul that speaks only in silence. This ritual, repeated night after night with intention, becomes a form of prayer. A prayer written in touch rather than words. A conversation between your conscious self and your deeper self. A dialogue that heals the ancient wound of disconnection from your own body. We stand at a unique moment in human history. For the first time, ancient spiritual knowledge and modern neuroscience are beginning to speak the same language. And nowhere is this convergence more evident than in our understanding of the vagus nerve, and its role in healing. The vagus nerve, whose name comes from the Latin word meaning wanderer, is the 10th cranial nerve. But do not let its anatomical designation deceive you. This is not a simple biological structure. It is a superhighway of communication, a luminous thread that connects your brain to nearly every organ in your body: your heart, your lungs, your liver, your stomach, your intestines. More importantly, it governs the parasympathetic nervous system, the realm of healing, digestion, restoration, and deep peace. For millennia, the sages knew this intuitively. They understood that there existed a central channel of energy running through the body, a cord of consciousness that could be activated through specific points and practices. In Kundalini Yoga, this was called the central channel. In traditional Chinese medicine, it was the governing vessel. In Taoist alchemy, it was the microcosmic orbit. The names varied, but the truth was identical. There is a way to awaken the body's innate healing capacity. What modern neuroscience has now confirmed is that one of the most accessible branches of the vagus nerve runs directly behind your ear, in the mastoid zone. When you stimulate this area with gentle, rhythmic touch, you are essentially sending a signal through this ancient channel, telling your entire system, it is safe to rest. It is safe to heal. The nervous system responds not with skepticism, but with immediate, measurable changes in heart rate variability, cortisol levels, and inflammatory markers. This is where the sacred and the scientific become one. The ancient healers were not speaking metaphorically when they called this point a gateway to the soul. They were describing, in the language available to them, the neurological reality that this small zone of stimulation can shift your entire state of consciousness. The body is not separate from the soul. The nervous system is not distinct from the spirit. They are one unified field of intelligence, waiting to be understood and honored. When you touch this point with intention, you are not defying science or embracing mere superstition. You are participating in something far more profound. The reunion of wisdom traditions with empirical knowledge, the healing of the ancient split between body and spirit. Now that we understand the depths of this practice, it is time to bring it into your life in a way that transforms not just your nights, but your entire existence. Because knowledge without application is merely beautiful theory. But knowledge embodied through ritual becomes medicine. Here is how to activate this sacred switch within your own sanctuary. First, create the container. Before sleep, extinguish harsh lights. Silence your devices. If possible, light a single candle. The body recognizes that you are entering sacred time. Your nervous system begins to shift simply through this gesture of intentionality. Second, settle into stillness. Sit or lie comfortably. Take 3 deep breaths, not forced but genuine. Let your awareness settle like sediment in clear water. You are not trying to achieve anything. You are simply arriving. Third, place your 2 fingers. Position your index and middle finger behind one ear, directly on the mastoid zone. The contact should be gentle, almost weightless. Imagine you are touching the ear of a sleeping child, or the petal of a flower at dawn. There should be no strain, no pressure that demands force. Fourth, move with intention. Begin to make slow, circular motions, or simple linear strokes downward, as though you were drawing a soft line down the back of your ear. The speed should be meditative, perhaps 1 complete circle every 2 to 3 seconds. There is no rush. You are not trying to fix anything. You are simply communicating with your body in its own language. Fifth, Accompany with breath and word. As you touch, breathe deeply and slowly. With each exhale, silently repeat a phrase. I am safe, or I can rest, or I am held. The words matter less than the intention behind them. You are creating a bridge between your conscious will and your body's response. Sixth, continue for 1 to 2 minutes. Then switch to the other ear and repeat. This is not a clinical procedure. It is a ritual of self-love, a conversation between you and your deepest self. What emerges over time, with consistent practice, is something remarkable. Your body begins to anticipate this gesture. Your nervous system learns that when you touch this point, safety is available, and gradually sleep becomes not a struggle, but an invitation you welcome each night. You have now journeyed through the wisdom, the science, and the practice of this ancient healing art. But before we close, there is something essential to understand. This is not merely about sleeping better. This is about reclaiming your right to rest as a spiritual act. In a world that glorifies exhaustion, that measures worth by sleeplessness, that treats rest as laziness, this simple gesture becomes an act of rebellion. When you touch the mastoid zone with intention each night, you are saying something profound to yourself and to the universe. My body matters. My peace matters. My healing matters. The question that now stands before you is this: what will you do with the knowledge that your nervous system can be calmed, not through medication or force, but through the sacred language of touch? What will you do, knowing that within you exists an ancient switch, waiting only for your reverence to activate? Perhaps the answer is simpler than you think. Perhaps it begins tonight. Perhaps it begins with 2 fingers, placed gently behind your ear, moving with the slowness of a prayer. Perhaps it begins with the willingness to believe that you deserve rest, that your body is wise, and that healing is not something you must earn. It is something you must allow. Over time, as you practice this ritual consistently, something shifts. Not overnight, but gradually, with the patience of seasons changing. Your sleep deepens. Your anxiety loosens its grip. Your body begins to trust again. And in that trust, something remarkable occurs. You reconnect with a part of yourself that has never been broken. A part that is whole, eternal, and infinitely capable of healing. Those around you will begin to notice. Your presence will become calmer. Your words will carry more weight. Your peace will become contagious. This is not magic in the sense of the supernatural. This is the natural magic that emerges when the human being returns to balance, when the nervous system remembers its original function, not to fight, but to flourish. The ancient masters knew this. They knew that the smallest gestures, performed with the greatest intention, ripple outward into the cosmos. Touch this point each night, not as a technique, but as a ceremony. Not as a fix, but as a homecoming. And watch how everything begins to transform. Not your circumstances, but your capacity to meet them with grace. The switch behind your ear has always been waiting. All that was required was your willingness to remember it exists.